Chapter 33.
Jack, someone whispered. Jack groaned, but didn't open his eyes. The pain in the back of his head pounded away, threatening to magnify dramatically if he so much as cracked his eyelids. And what if he did open his eyes, and he was still in the middle?
No, that had been a dream. But where had the dream actually started? Had he dreamt the entire Beanstalk mess? Maybe he could just go back to sleep and let this whole nightmare end on its own.
Jack,
the voice whispered again, louder this time. Wake up! Yeah, I knew you were gonna say that. Jack grunted, then cracked his eyes open. Instantly he closed them. Some kind of floating globe of light was shining right in his face, blinding him. More cautiously this time, he tilted his head to the side and opened his eyes again. Not only was there a light, but bars too. Big metal bars. They'd been thrown in jail by the goblins, as promised. At least the monsters were reliable.
May? Jack asked, reluctantly pushed himself to a sitting position.
He glanced around his cell and quickly spotted her staring at him from the next cell over, just to the left of the floating will-o'-the-wisp globe that eerily lit the cells. About time you woke up, she said indignantly. I've been sitting here for hours. Did they hit you too? Jack asked, lightly rubbing the back of his head, then resolving not to do that anymore when new pain shot through his temples. Well, no, May said. I didn't touch me. Jack nodded. That was something. I'm still annoyed, Val, May said, standing up with her hands on her hips. I mean, what kind of gods don't take you to the person in charge? Yeah, evil monsters not listening to you? Who could have predicted that? Jack asked, taking a quick look around his jail cell. Greenish hay filled one corner, probably for sleeping on. Nice of his jailers to throw him onto the hard ground in the middle of the room instead of onto the hay. An old wooden bucket sat in the opposite corner, the one nearest the barred window at the rear of the cell. Great, he said, shaking his head. How do we manage to hit the worst possible outcome in every situation? We'll just talk our way out, May said, though she didn't sound too convinced. Jack raised an eyebrow. Talk to who? The god? A judge? Malevolent? Someone? Why can't just leave us here? Oh, really? Jack said, then nodded toward the cell on his right. May strained to see what he meant, then gasped. Is that a skeleton? She said, cringing.
Yup, Jack said. He probably should have tried talking his way out.
Don't make me come over there, May said, banging on the bars between them. Then she gasped suddenly, jumping backward. Jack, I saw something moving. Don't worry, Jack said, following her gaze. It's just rats. Where's Philip? No clue, May said. I haven't seen anyone but you, well, and now that guy, and the rats. Jack nodded and stood up, bracing himself against the walls. The room chose that moment to sway and spin, apparently just to spite him. He shook off the dizziness and set to work. What are you doing? May asked Jack as he bent over and stared into each corner of the cell. There's always one in these places, just watching for someone interesting, he said. They can't resist checking out the new people. You just have to find... Aha! He reached into the corner with the bucket and grabbed a hold of what looked to be a long white thread. As he yanked on it, the thread pulled up a tassel which topped a funny little red hat, which in turn sat on top of an imp's tiny pointed head. Jack dragged the creature out of its hiding place and held it in midair. "Let me go!" the imp screamed, desperately clutching its red hat with little white-knuckled fists as it kicked at Jack with all its strength. The imp's furious face scrunched up as tightly as it could, considering its beard was tucked into its bright blue pants, a color that happened to go nicely with its shockingly goldenrod tunic. Jack held the imp out at arm's length, both to keep the creature from biting him and to avoid the smell. Maybe the corner with the waste bucket wasn't the smartest place to live. "Release me!" the imp said, struggling even more viciously. "No," Jack said simply. "You're going to help us first. I'll let you go when you agree to free the princess there." "Oh, a princess?" the imp said, immediately stopping its struggle with a big grin. "Put me down. Let me get a look at her." Jack smiled. "I'll put you down, but your hat's mine, just in case you're thinking about running." He jerked his arm, ripping the hat off the imp's head and tossing the little creature to the floor. Before it even hit the ground, the imp started screaming obscenities, its face an unnaturally bright purple, but Jack just shrugged. "I'm keeping your hat until you get her out of here," he said calmly. The imp stopped swearing. "I'll help her out of here, all right." A smile slowly made its way over the imp's beady little face. Again, "No," Jack said. "You'll put her out there on the floor, right outside our jail cells. You will not alert the guards or do anything else to put her in danger. Also, you will not turn her into a frog or shrink her to the size of a mushroom. You will put her outside the cell without changing or hurting her in any way. Do we understand each other?" The imp stamped its foot. "You humans have become far too clever to be any fun." Then it smiled again. "But what about you, fine sir? You said you would give me my hat back if I freed her. Yet you'll still be stuck in this dank, dreary cell. What deal will you strike for your own freedom?" "No deal," Jack said, his eyes narrowing. "She'll find a way to get me out." The imp managed to look indignant. "You wound me, good sir. I could easily grant your freedom from this cell and ask nothing in return." "That sounds good. We'll take that," May yelled from the other cell before Jack could stop her. Jack groaned all the way down to his feet. "Oh, May," he said, shaking his head. "Deal," the imp said, jumping forward to seize May's hand, which it pumped furiously up and down. "And now I shall grant his freedom, yes, and for no price. However,